No. Self-pity. Mindset.
Winners' mindset, simple rules of strong people. Winners aren't the smartest, not the most talented, not even the hardest workers. Winners are the ones who think differently. While others doubt, they act. While others wait for confidence, they use fear. While others search for motivation, they're already taking what's theirs. This book won't make you special. It will make you dangerous. Because you'll start thinking the way winners think. And once you think like a winner, everything changes. Introduction: Why you're not a loser. Winning isn't personality, it's a system of thinking. You think winners are born that way. They're not. You think they have something you don't. They don't. You think success chose them and skipped you. Wrong. Winners aren't lucky. Winners aren't blessed. Winners aren't special. They just think differently. And that difference changes everything. Because thinking creates action. Action creates results. Results create winning. And winning becomes a habit, not because they're better than you, but because they train their mind to work for them instead of against them. And that's what this book is about. Not motivation, not inspiration, not feel-good fluff. This is about rewiring the way you think. So you stop thinking like someone who hopes to win and start thinking like someone who expects to win. Because expectation changes behavior. And behavior changes outcomes. So if you're tired of losing, if you're tired of watching others win while you stay stuck, this is your moment. Not to become someone else, but to start thinking like the winner you already are. You just didn't know it yet. Chapter 1: A winner isn't someone who got lucky. Luck comes to those who are ready to use it. You see someone succeed, and you think they got lucky. They launched at the right time. They knew the right people. They were in the right place. And maybe some of that is true, but here's what you're missing: they were ready when luck showed up. And you weren't, not because you're not capable, but because you weren't thinking like someone who's ready. You were thinking like someone who's waiting, and waiting is how you miss everything. 1. Why the world seems unfair. The world feels unfair when you see people winning and you're not. Why them and not me? Why do they have it easier? Why does everything work out for them? And you start to believe the game is rigged, that success is reserved for the chosen few, that you're just not meant to win. But here's the truth: the world isn't unfair. It's indifferent. It doesn't care who wins. It just responds to action, to consistency, to resilience, to the person who keeps moving when everyone else stops. And when you see someone getting lucky, what you're actually seeing is someone who took more shots, failed more times, kept going when it would have been easier to quit. You don't see the years of invisible work. You don't see the failures they don't talk about. You don't see the nights they spent building while everyone else was sleeping. You only see the result. And you call it luck, but it's not luck, it's preparation meeting opportunity. And the reason you haven't won yet isn't because the world is unfair. It's because you're not ready when opportunity shows up. You're still preparing, still doubting, still waiting for the right time. But winners don't wait. They take imperfect action. They build while learning. They fail forward. And when luck shows up, they're ready to catch it because they've been training for that moment every single day. 1. 2. What's really behind other people's success? You think successful people have a secret, a hack, a shortcut, something they know that you don't. And you're right, they do have something. But it's not a secret, it's a mindset. They think in systems, not events. They think in progress, not perfection. They think in action, not intention. When you see someone successful, you see the highlight reel, the launch, the promotion, the win. But you don't see what built it. The daily decisions, the small disciplines, the unglamorous work that no one celebrates. You see the person who made it, but you don't see the 1,000 times they almost quit and didn't. You see the confidence, but you don't see the fear they acted through. You see the success, but you don't see the failure they learned from. And that's the gap between where you were and where they are. It's not talent, it's not luck, it's not connections, it's the willingness to do what's uncomfortable every single day. To show up when motivation is gone. To keep going when results aren't showing. To trust the process even when it feels pointless. That's what's behind success. Not magic, just relentless consistency. And the good news, you can do that too. You just have to stop waiting for the magic and start doing the work. 1. 3. The illusion of they just got lucky. When you say they just got lucky, you're lying to yourself. Not because luck doesn't exist, it does. But because luck isn't random, luck is the result of positioning. Of being in the right place at the right time because you put yourself there. The person who got lucky with a job opportunity was the person who applied to 50 jobs. The person who got lucky meeting the right mentor was the person who showed up to every event. The person who got lucky with their business idea was the person who tried 10 ideas before that one worked. So when you say, they just got lucky, what you're really saying is I don't want to do the work they did. And that's fine. But don't pretend it's about luck, because luck is created through action, through persistence, through showing up so many times that eventually opportunity has no choice but to find you. And the reason you haven't gotten lucky yet isn't because the universe forgot about you. It's because you're not creating enough opportunities for luck to find you. So stop waiting for luck to knock on your door. Go knock on every door until one opens. That's how winners think. Chapter 2. How strong people think under pressure. Weak people ask, what if it doesn't work? Strong people ask, what will I do when it does? Pressure reveals who you really are. Not who you think you are, not who you wish you were, who you actually are, because pressure strips away the performance. And what's left is your real thinking. And winners, under pressure, they don't break. Not because they're tougher, but because they think differently. They see pressure as information, not as a threat. 2. 1. How you react to fear and uncertainty. Fear shows up for everyone, but winners don't let fear make their decisions. When fear says this might not work, most people stop. They overthink, they delay, they talk themselves out of it. But winners, they ask a different question: what if it does work? And then they move. Not because they're fearless, but because they've learned fear is just noise. It's your brain trying to keep you safe. But safe doesn't mean right. Safe means staying where you are. And staying where you are means never winning. So winners feel the fear and act anyway, not recklessly, strategically. They take calculated risks. They move with incomplete information. They adjust as they go. Because they know certainty is a myth. You'll never feel 100 ready. You'll never have all the answers. You'll never eliminate all risk. But winners don't wait for that. They act with 70 clarity and figure out the rest along the way. That's how they win under pressure. They don't freeze, they move. 2. Why pressure doesn't break everyone. Pressure breaks people who believe their own fears, who think, if I fail, I'm done, who see pressure as a judgment of their worth. But winners, they see pressure differently. They see it as a test of skill, not a judgment of character. When pressure hits, they don't think, what if I'm not good enough? They think, what's the best move I can make right now? And that shift changes everything, because when you see pressure as a problem to solve instead of a threat to survive, you stay calm. You stay focused, you stay strategic, and that calmness is what separates winners from everyone else. It's not that they don't feel pressure, they do, but they've trained their mind to interpret it differently, to see it as a signal to focus, not a signal to panic. And that interpretation is a choice you can make too. 2. Calmness as a skill. Calmness isn't a personality trait, it's a skill you train. Just like any other skill, you train it by not reacting immediately, by pausing before you respond, by asking, what's the smartest move here? Instead of what feels safe. You train it by controlling your breath, by noticing when panic starts to rise and choosing to breathe through it. You train it by focusing on what you can control and ignoring what you can't, because winners know you can't control the outcome. You can't control other people. You can't control circumstances, but you can control how you respond. And that response is everything, because calm people make better decisions. They see clearly when others are clouded by fear. They move strategically when others are frozen. They win when others panic. So if you want to think like a winner, start training calmness, not by avoiding pressure, but by choosing how you respond to it every single time. Chapter 3: The Simple Rule of Responsibility. Winners don't look for who's to blame, they look for leverage. Blame is easy. It feels good to point fingers, to say it's not my fault. The economy is bad, my boss doesn't support me. I didn't have the resources, and maybe all of that is true. But winners don't care about what's true, they care about what they can control. And blame gives you nothing but an excuse, and excuses don't build empires. 1. Why complaints erase power. Every time you complain, you give away power, because complaining says someone else is in control. I'm a victim of circumstances, there's nothing I can do. And once you believe that, you stop looking for solutions, you stop taking action, you stop winning. Because winners don't complain. Not because they don't face problems, but because complaining doesn't solve them. So instead of, why is this happening to me, they ask, what can I do about this? Instead of, this isn't fair, they ask, how can I use this? Instead of, I can't because, they say, I will, despite. And that shift from victim to agent is what separates winners from losers. Because losers give away power by blaming, winners take power by acting. 3. Where control actually is. You think control is external. If only I had more money. If only people understood me. If only the timing were better. But that's not control. That's waiting for the world to give you permission. But the world doesn't care. It's not going to hand you what you want. You have to take it, and you take it by controlling what you can, your effort, your attitude, your decisions, that's it. You can't control the economy, but you can control how hard you work. You can't control what people think, but you can control what you put out into the world. You can't control the outcome, but you can control the input. And winners focus 100 on what they can control and 0 on what they can't, because focusing on what you can't control is just another way to avoid taking action. And winners don't avoid, they act. 3. The one question that changes everything. Here's the question that winners ask every single day. What can I do right now to move forward? Not why is this happening? Not whose fault is this? Not what if it doesn't work? Just what can I do right now? And then they do it. That's the entire game. Not thinking about it, not planning it perfectly, not waiting for ideal conditions, just doing the next right thing. And then the next, and then the next, because winning isn't one big moment. It's 1,000 small decisions to act instead of wait, to own instead of blame, to move instead of freeze. And that question, what can I do right now, is the question that puts you back in control every single time. Chapter 4: Why Discipline Beats Motivation. Motivation comes and goes. Winning stays with the disciplined. You think you need motivation to win. You think you need it to feel inspired before you act, but that's why you're losing. Because motivation is an emotion, and emotions are unreliable. They come when you're excited. They leave when you're tired. And if you only act when you're motivated, you'll only win when you feel like it. Which means you won't win at all, because winning requires showing up when you don't feel like it. And that's discipline. 4. The illusion of inspiration. You're waiting to feel inspired. You think, once I feel ready, I'll start. But here's the truth: inspiration is a luxury. It's nice when it shows up, but it's not required. Winners don't wait for inspiration. They create momentum through action. And momentum creates inspiration, not the other way around. So if you're waiting to feel motivated, you've already lost. Because motivation doesn't create action. Action creates motivation. You start moving and suddenly you feel motivated to keep going. You take one step and the next step becomes easier. But if you wait for the feeling first, you'll be waiting forever. because the feeling only comes after the action. 4. 2. How to act without desire. Winners have a secret. They don't rely on desire. They rely on systems. They don't ask, "Do I feel like doing this?" They ask, "Is this what I'm supposed to do today?" And if the answer is yes, they do it. No negotiation, no debate, just execution, because they've decided in advance that certain things are non-negotiable. Training, working, showing up, no matter how they feel, and that decision removes the need for motivation, because it's not a choice anymore. It's just what they do, like brushing your teeth. You don't wait to feel motivated to brush your teeth. You just do it because it's a non-negotiable part of your day. And winners treat their goals the same way, not as wishes, as non-negotiables. And once you do that, motivation becomes irrelevant. You don't need it. You just act. 4. 3 small rules for big results. Discipline isn't about massive willpower. It's about small rules repeated daily. Rules like I work out every morning, no matter what. I work on my business for 1 hour before I check my phone. I read 10 pages every night. Simple, small, sustainable, but repeated over time. These small rules create massive results. Because discipline compounds. One workout doesn't change your body, but 365 workouts transform it. 1 hour of work doesn't build a business, but 365 hours create an empire. 1 page doesn't make you wise, but 650 pages change how you think. So winners don't focus on the big goal. They focus on the small rule, the daily discipline, the simple habit. And they trust that if they show up every day, the results will take care of themselves. And they do. Chapter 5. How you see mistakes. Winners don't fear mistakes. They fear stopping. You're afraid to make mistakes, so you don't try. You wait until you're sure you won't fail. But that moment never comes. And while you wait, winners are failing 100 times and learning from every single one. Because winners know mistakes aren't failures, they're data. 5. 1. Why mistakes are just data. When you make a mistake, you think, "I failed, I'm not good enough, I should give up." But winners think, "That didn't work. What can I learn from this? What will I do differently next time?" See the difference? You see mistakes as judgment. Winners see mistakes as feedback. Feedback that tells them, "This approach doesn't work, try something else." And they do. Without shame, without hesitation, without questioning their worth. Because mistakes don't define them. Actions do. And as long as they keep acting, they keep winning, even when they're failing. Because every failure is just one step closer to success, as long as you learn and adjust. But if you see mistakes as proof that you're not capable, you'll stop trying. And that's the only real failure. 5. 2. How not to get stuck in shame. Shame is the killer of progress. When you make a mistake and feel shame, you stop moving, you hide, you avoid, you convince yourself that you're not cut out for this. But winners, they don't have time for shame. They acknowledge the mistake, learn from it, and move on immediately. No wallowing, no ruminating, no replaying it 1,000 times. Just, okay, that happened, what's next? And they move, because they know shame is a trap. A trap that keeps you stuck in the past instead of moving toward the future. And the future is where winning happens, not in the mistake you made, but in what you do after the mistake. So if you want to win, learn to let go of shame fast. Because every second you spend in shame is a second you're not spending on progress. And progress is all that matters. 5. 3. The habit of moving forward. Winners have one habit that separates them from everyone else. They always move forward. No matter what. They fail, they move forward. They get rejected, they move forward. They make a mistake, they move forward. Always. Because they know the only way to lose is to stop. And they refuse to stop, so they keep moving, even when it's hard, even when it hurts, even when they don't know if it will work, they move. Because movement creates momentum, and momentum creates results, and results create winning. So if you want to think like a winner, adopt this habit no matter what happens. Move forward. Take one step, make one call, do one thing that moves you toward your goal every single day, and watch as everything changes, not because you're perfect, but because you refused to stop. Chapter 6: The Focus of Strong People. Strong people don't spread themselves thin. They cut out everything secondary. You think you need to do more. More hustling, more networking, more learning. But that's not what winners do. Winners do less, not because they're lazy, but because they understand attention is their most valuable resource. And they protect it like their life depends on it, because it does. 6. Why attention is your main resource. You have limited attention. Every day you wake up with a finite amount of mental energy. And every distraction, every notification, every unnecessary task drains the energy until there's nothing left for what actually matters. And that's why most people don't win. Not because they don't work hard, but because they work hard on the wrong things. They spread their attention across 100 tasks and wonder why nothing significant ever gets done. But winners are ruthless with their attention. They say no to everything that doesn't move them toward their goal. No to distractions, no to time wasters, no to good opportunities that aren't great. Because they know you can't build an empire if your attention is scattered. You need focus, intense focus, on the one thing that will change everything. And everything else, it can wait. 6. How to cut out everything secondary. Here's the hard truth: most of what you do doesn't matter. It feels important, it feels urgent, it feels necessary. But it's not. 90 of your tasks create 10 of your results, and 10 of your tasks create 90 of your results. Winners know this, so they focus on the 10. And they ruthlessly cut the 90. They ask, will this move me closer to my goal? If yes, they do it. If no, they delete it. No guilt, no second guessing, just elimination. Because time is finite, attention is finite, and if you're spending it on things that don't matter, you're stealing from yourself. So start cutting. Cut the meetings that don't produce results. Cut the projects that don't align with your vision. Cut the people who drain your energy. Cut everything that's not essential. And watch as your results explode, because focus is power. And when you focus on what truly matters, you become unstoppable. 6. How to maintain clarity. Clarity doesn't happen by accident. It's intentional. Winners create clarity by simplifying. They ask, what's the one thing I need to do today that will make everything else easier or unnecessary? And they do that. That's it. One thing, not 10 things, not 5 things, one. Because when you focus on one thing, you do it well. When you focus on 10 things, you do them all poorly. So winners simplify. They eliminate complexity. They cut out noise. They focus on the essential. And that clarity, that singular focus, is what creates massive results. Not hustle, not multitasking, focus. Chapter 7: The Inner Dialogue of a Winner. Strong people don't motivate themselves, they command themselves. You think winners talk to themselves with kindness, with encouragement, with gentle motivation. But they don't. Winners are direct. They don't ask, do I feel like doing this? They say, do it. No negotiation. No debate, just command. And that command comes from a place of self-respect, not self-doubt. 7. How people of results talk to themselves. Winners talk to themselves like they're in charge, because they are. When the alarm goes off, they don't think, maybe I should get up. They think, get up. When fear shows up, they don't think, maybe I can do this. They think, you're doing this. When doubt creeps in, they don't ask, am I good enough? They say, it doesn't matter, move. See the difference? There's no question. No hesitation, no plea for permission. Just instruction, because winners know if you ask yourself whether you should do something, your brain will find a reason not to. But if you command yourself, your brain follows orders, and that is how you build unstoppable momentum, not through self-doubt, through self-command. 7. The difference between support and weakness. There's a difference between supporting yourself and coddling yourself. Support sounds like this is hard, but I can handle it. Coddling sounds like this is too hard, I should quit. Support sounds like I'm scared, and I'm doing it anyway. Coddling sounds like I'm scared, so I'll wait until I'm not. Support pushes you forward. Coddling keeps you safe, and safe doesn't win. So winners support themselves without weakness. They acknowledge reality, but they don't use it as an excuse. They say, yes, this is uncomfortable, do it anyway. Yes, you might fail, try anyway. Yes, people might judge you, speak anyway. That's support. Not you're amazing, so you don't have to do hard things. But you're capable, so do the hard thing. And that support, that tough support, is what builds real strength. Not the fake confidence of avoidance, but the real confidence of action. 7. The tone that leads you forward. Winners use a tone that's firm but not harsh, commanding but not cruel. They don't berate themselves for being human. But they also don't let themselves off the hook. They strike a balance between compassion and accountability. They say, you said you'd do this, so do it. Not, you're pathetic, you never follow through. And not, it's okay if you don't, you can try again tomorrow. But you committed, so honor that commitment. And that tone, that balance, is what keeps them moving when everyone else finds an excuse to stop. Because they respect themselves enough to hold themselves accountable, and accountability is what separates winners from wishers. Chapter 8. Action before confidence. Confidence comes after action. Always, you're waiting to feel confident before you act. But that's backwards, because confidence doesn't create action. Action creates confidence. You don't feel brave and then do the scary thing. You do the scary thing and then feel brave. That's the order. And until you understand that, you'll be waiting forever. 8. Why waiting for readiness is a trap. You think, once I'm ready, I'll start. But here's the truth, you'll never feel ready. Not for anything that matters, because ready is a feeling, and feelings are unreliable. They shift based on your mood, your energy, your fears. So if you wait to feel ready, you're giving control to your emotions. And emotions don't want you to grow, they want you to stay safe. So they'll never tell you you're ready. But winners, they don't wait for readiness. They act with incomplete preparation. They start before they're confident. They move before they're certain. Because they know readiness is built through action, not before it. 8. 2 small steps that break fear. Fear stops you when you think you have to do it all at once. When the goal feels too big, too overwhelming, too impossible. But winners break it down. They don't think, I need to build a business. They think, I need to make one sale. They don't think, I need to lose 50 pounds. They think, I need to work out today. They don't think, I need to become confident. They think, I need to take one brave action right now. And that shift from overwhelming to manageable breaks the fear, because you're not asking yourself to do the impossible. You're just asking yourself to take one step, and one step is always possible, even when you're scared. 8. How to enter motion. Motion creates clarity. You can't think your way into action. You have to act your way into clarity. So if you're stuck, cover thinking, cover analyzing, waiting for the right move, just move. Do something, anything. Send the email, make the call. Start the project, even if it's imperfect, even if it's small. Just start, because once you start moving, your brain shifts from what if mode to what's next mode. And what's next mode is where progress happens. So stop waiting for the perfect plan. Stop waiting for total confidence. Just move and let the motion carry you forward. Because winners know you can't steer a parked car. You have to start moving before you can course correct. So move now. Chapter 9. Winning is a habit. Strong people win not because they try harder, but because they don't know how to do anything else. Winning isn't an event, it's a habit, a way of thinking that becomes automatic. Winners don't wake up and decide, today I'll be a winner. They just are. Because they've trained their mind to think in winning patterns, and those patterns run on autopilot. 9. How winners' thinking is formed. Winners' thinking is built through repetition. You make one decision that moves you forward, then another, and over time those decisions become automatic. You don't think, should I work out today? You just work out. You don't think, should I take this risk? You just take it. You don't think, am I capable? You just act like you are. And eventually you don't have to try to think like a winner. You just do. Because it's been repeated so many times, it's become who you are, not what you do, who you are. And that is when winning becomes inevitable. 9. 2 daily decisions that determine destiny. Your life isn't determined by the big moments. It's determined by the small ones. The daily decisions that seem insignificant but compound into everything. Do you hit snooze or get up? Do you scroll or work? Do you avoid the hard conversation or have it? Do you take the easy path or the right one? Those decisions, made every single day, are what create your destiny. Not the one big choice, but the 1,000 small ones. And winners make those small decisions in alignment with who they want to become, not who they currently are. They decide as if they've already won. And over time, those decisions make it true. 9. Why there's no going back. Once you start thinking like a winner, you can't unsee it. You can't go back to thinking like someone who waits, who doubts, who blames, because you've tasted what it feels like to take control, to act despite fear, to move forward no matter what. And that feeling is addictive, not in a destructive way, but in a way that makes you never want to go back to being powerless. So you won't. You'll have bad days. You'll have setbacks. You'll have moments where you doubt yourself. But you won't stay there, because you'll remember, I don't think like that anymore. And you'll get back up and keep moving. Because winning isn't a destination, it's a direction. And once you start moving in that direction, you don't stop. You can't, because you've become someone who wins, and winners don't quit. Conclusion: you've already started. From this moment, you have a choice. Think like you used to, or think like a winner. And you'll make that choice every single day. You made it, not to the end of a book, but to the beginning of a new way of thinking. Because everything you just read isn't theory, it's practice. It's the way winners actually think. And now you know it too. So the question is, what will you do with this knowledge? Will you close this book and go back to thinking the way you always have? Or will you start today making different choices, different decisions, thinking like someone who wins? Because that's the choice you have right now. And it's the choice you'll have every single day. Every morning, you'll wake up and you'll decide, do I think like a winner today, or do I think like I used to? And that decision, made every single day, will determine everything. Not your circumstances, not your luck, not your resources, your thinking. Because thinking creates action, and action creates results, and results create the life you live. So if you want a different life, start with different thinking. Think like someone who expects to win. Think like someone who doesn't wait for permission. Think like someone who acts despite fear. Think like someone who takes responsibility for everything. Think like someone who doesn't quit when it gets hard. Think like a winner. Not because you've already won, but because winning starts in the mind, long before it shows up in reality. And the moment you start thinking like a winner, you've already started winning. So don't wait, don't prepare, don't plan, just start. Start thinking differently today. Make one decision that a winner would make. Take one action that a winner would take. Respond to one challenge the way a winner would respond. And then do it again tomorrow, and the day after, and the day after that. Because winning isn't a one-time event, it's a daily practice. A practice of thinking, deciding, acting like someone who refuses to lose. And if you do that every single day, you won't just start winning. You'll become a winner. Not because you're special, but because you chose to think like one. And that choice changes everything, so make it today. Right now, in this moment, choose to think like a winner and watch as your entire life shifts, not overnight, but inevitably, because winners aren't born. They're built, one decision, one action at a time. And you just started building, so keep going. Don't stop. Don't doubt. Don't wait. Just win, one day at a time, until winning becomes who you are. The end. What happens next? You close this book, and you make one winning decision today. Not tomorrow, not next week. Today, you take one action that a winner would take. Maybe it's finally starting that project. Maybe it's having that hard conversation. Maybe it's just getting out of bed when you don't feel like it. Whatever it is, do it. Like a winner would, and then do it again tomorrow, because that's how you become the person you've always known you could be. Not by thinking about it, by doing it, starting now.